Hi guys, what's going on, and welcome back to another episode of Total War Arena News. So, I know we only just had the 3.1.6 patch, both video and actual patch released, but since had a Reddit Ask Me Anything, and we have also had the dev newsletter, which is looking at 3.1.7, then I thought it was worthwhile to have another look at these, and I think most people find the news sort of information kind of one of the most interesting videos types anyway, because it's sometimes is just pages and pages of text on Reddit or in the dev blogs in the patch notes, and hopefully this condenses it down a little bit more. So first things is sort of like the dev blog really that was released today. Today is Wednesday, so this will come out on Thursday, which is the same time as they'll be doing their live stream. So what's changing? Going to be changing in 3.1.7. A couple of things, kind of expanding on some of the changes they made, like on the recently played list in the in your social user interface. They're also adding things like a post-battle chat lobby. They're kind of minor changes. A post-battle chat lobby kind of just seems like everyone's just going to be flaming after the match, to be honest. And it's going to be much salt, but there we go. We'll see how that turns out. And they're also putting better in-battle communication. This is probably no bad thing. They're going to add like a radial wheel where you could just, you know, you can, I don't know how they're going to access it, maybe right click and hold or something, and you'll be able to do attack, defend, move here, I need help, all these sort of quick access commands, and they'll all be automatically translated into the language of the person who's seeing it. So if you broadcast it to a Russian, it'll be translated to Russian, etc, etc. So that's certainly no bad thing. You know, increased battle communications, particularly when it's sort of a global server, is obviously, you know, needed and an improvement. They're also making some minor changes to the MVP screen at the end. You know, who's the most valuable player. Currently it's just based on the most points, who gets the most points. And they are changing that slightly, although no details on exactly how that's going to change. Probably no bad thing, particularly now we're getting different commander skins, obviously, which should be visible in those end battle screens. So yeah, not a bad thing, but nothing really important. So this one is important. Is Caesar is getting basically a nerf. Kind of been talked about a bit. It's hard for me to comment on too much. I don't really play Caesar all that much. Certainly not in the higher tiers anyway. I've only used him a little bit for artillery, and I used him on some tier 4 and 5 javelins. So not really used him very much. But I have heard that it gets particularly powerful towards the high tiers, particularly with his silence ability, which is, I believe, is it Vichy? Is his silence ability? But anyway, what's happening is it's also been found out that his reload buff is kind of too often being used in conjunction with Kanane to give sort of insane fire rates. So yeah, so basically Caesar is getting a nerf. His reload buff is being changed for a missile weapon range buff, I believe. And he's also getting an increased cooldown on his silence. And I think the effects of that silence are being reduced. Probably the range that it activates from, or the length that it is activated. So yeah, Caesar's getting a reasonable nerf slash rebalance, but nerf really, I think, to be honest. So if you're a Caesar player, bad news. On better news, Scipio is getting a buff to Oath of Perseverance. I mean, he needs it. Scipio's not one of the better commanders at the moment. He kind of struggles to really do anything very effectively, and frankly even the buff, which is just a slight buff for Oath of Perseverance, basically to the amount of morale it produces. So it basically should now be able to be flanked pretty much on 3 sides, and he still won't rout. So it's kind of going to be making him unroutable when he's in Oath of Perseverance. So that's kind of the change, which is yeah, not a bad thing, I don't suppose. I still don't think it's going to make him an amazing commander by any stretch. And for those of you who don't like archers, Ambi-Archer is getting a small nerf. In the form of Crippling Shot, which currently you can shoot when you're engaged in combat. Now it will be working like focus fire, so once your unit is engaged, got a combat flag modifier on it, you won't be able to use Crippling Shot, which fine, you know, makes sense. I don't know why they didn't apply that to the beginning, if that's kind of how they went with the focus fire, you know, that you can't use it when you're in combat, so why they didn't do that for Crippling Shot either, I don't know. So that's changing as well. I think that's a good thing. And they've also said in their dev blog that they're looking at detail kind of the way that ranged meta is working, particularly in some of the higher tiers. I know there's quite a lot of discontentment about that, you know, particularly with Kanane, and obviously now with Ambi-Archer as well. people feel that ranged in the higher tiers is, or at least can be, quite overpowered and quite dominant. I can kind of see that, certainly at times. I don't necessarily disagree. So yeah, that's something they're looking at, but they've not given any sort of time scale, and we don't know when that's going to be. But apparently they're looking at it, so hopefully in a patch or two's time we might be able to see some changing on that. So the things we've also just had today, the Reddit Ask Me Anything. So it's kind of a handful of interesting things that I saw as I was reading through that. There's about like 300 comments or something by the time it finished, so there's quite a lot to flick through. But a few of the things that stood out to me were things like spear friendly fire is unlikely to ever be returning. I know that's something that's asked, or I see asked quite a lot, either in comments or on Reddit, that sort of thing. You know, people would like spears to reintroduce friendly fire. Obviously, pikes, the really long units, long pikemen, still do have friendly fire, but the shorter spearmen don't. They got removed, and it's going to stay that way, basically. They fear that if it causes a balance issue, they'd rather solve the balance issue through other means than adding friendly fire back in. While we're on the topic of spears, someone mentioned about Carthaginian spears are a bit, being a bit crap, basically. They're supposed to be like a heavy version of spearmen, but they're just really not as good as the Greek spears, which, from my limited experience of them, is true. And if you look at the stats, they don't really stack up. Well, they were saying that, yes, they probably do need looking at. It's not a priority, and sort of units like that, where they're not massively overpowered or massively underpowered, they're just sort of pretty average, maybe need a bit of tweaking in the future, are unlikely to be getting anything happening in terms of a rebalancing soon. So yeah, don't expect the Carthaginian Spears to be getting better anytime soon. We have got a new map coming out shortly as well. Hopefully we're going to see some more details about that coming out tomorrow in the development live stream. What else are we going on? Elephants. So there's a bit of a conversation or two cropped up about elephants, how they sort of how they currently interact with the game. Do they need changing? I think kind of elephants have always been a controversial one. I think they obviously, with the changes they had to their armor and everything, they've been balanced a lot better now than they ever have been before. One thing that they currently are basically completely unaffected by, though, is morale. Both because they have quite a high morale, so something like a war cry or a fear doesn't rout them. I guess it's possible if you manage to war cry, roar them and fear them, they may rout, but I've never seen it happen, I don't think. They want to make the elephants significantly more interact with morale system, so that's something I think they're looking at changing. And that would certainly be a good thing, I think, because, obviously being just immune to the routing when everyone else in the battle is obviously not a good thing, particularly when the elephants themselves actually get an ability that can help rout units as well with their roar, minus 15 morale. So, yeah, I think changes to elephant and the morale system would certainly not be a bad thing. Probably the most disappointing thing I saw in the Reddit Ask Me Anything on the topic of Commander XP changes was that, basically, don't get your hopes up. It doesn't seem likely that anything is going to be changing soon. They're sort of taking a look at the data and everything, and they're going to keep analysing it. But I think the general consensus is that they don't feel like any changes are likely to be happening soon. I don't know why this is. I kind of feel like, with the amount of player feedback that's been given on the fact that people feel that Commander experience prices are too high, I really would have expected that something was going to happen by now. I really would have expected that to be dropped, but it hasn't. And the fact that there's no plans for that to happen is kind of surprising to me, really. But I mean, I guess it is what it is. If that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. Yeah, I'm just kind of surprised. I was kind of expecting that to be something that I was going to hear about changing shortly, particularly now we've had Ambiorix released. But apparently not. They feel it does not had a massive impact, really, in the way that people are interacting with the commanders, and they think there's still a reasonable proportion of different commanders in the battlefield. Anyway, so maybe that's something that could be changing in the future, but no immediate plans. And that's pretty much most of the stuff that I picked out, really, from sort of combination of the Reddit Ask Me Anything and of the devblog. A few things that I noticed. Obviously, head over to the Reddit, have a flick through the thread, because there's lots of different replies about lots of different things. I was just kind of picking out the things that I thought people might be most interested in. The sort of the most controversial topics and kind of what everyone seems to care about at the moment, because otherwise we'd be here for 30 minutes discussing every possible change, and I can't be bothered to do that. So that's why we haven't done that. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say on it. We'll also be getting, obviously, the development live stream, which will be out tomorrow, which, by the time this video comes out, will be today. So this will come out, and then it'll probably be an hour or so before the war room is on. It's always well worth popping on. It's normally about an hour and a half, something like that, and the devs talk about all the different changes that are going to be going on, go into more detail about some of the changes that are probably going to be coming in the 3.1.7 patch. So yeah, it's well worth visiting. Oh, I also noticed that they said, obviously this patch was a bit late in being released. They obviously had a few issues getting it developed and put out, but they've said that it's not going to have any impact on the development schedule going forwards, and the rest of the development stuff has still been produced on time. So, you know, it's not going to be now an ongoing delay. We'll be back to the standard Thursday schedule. I think it was just a one-off glitch that they had that caused this. So yeah, not to worry about that too much. So hopefully this has been sort of a vaguely informative session. How long have we got? Well, we might as well finish this battle off for the remaining 40 seconds. How did we do? 2,500. That could be worse. I think I was trying to chase down these artillery only to notice that they just ran into our base. I don't think I'm going to be getting there in time. So it's on a bit of a fast forward. So yes, hopefully you found this video sort of slightly informative. I quite enjoy doing these news videos because I read about all the news and stuff anyway. So I like to be able to then put it into sort of an easy for you guys to sort of hear about format. Because I know some of you don't want to sit there and read into all these various posts, some of them pretty long. So hopefully it's kind of useful to you. If it is, please give the video a like, because that really does help. And yeah, subscribe to the channel for lots more Total War Arena content. I'll sort of be keeping you up to date. If there's anything drastic that comes up in the development live stream, maybe we'll have another video. If not, we'll probably be having our 3.1.7 patch note video when the patch notes come out in sort of like a week and a day from when I'm recording this on Wednesday. So thank you for watching, guys. Yeah, so hopefully you've enjoyed it, and I shall see you all on the next video.